Hail friends, welcome to the channel. Bob here with something a bit different on the channel. It shouldn't be different because this is kind of the stuff that I've always, always wanted to cover a wider range of games, but, I got caught in the MMO grind, and so that's kind of all I cover. But yeah, this is something a bit different. This is the Baldur's Gate 3 reveal footage that went out yesterday, or I think went out last night for me. It probably would have been, or this morning for you, or whatever, wherever you are. Obviously, it would have been a different time. I quite like the way that they're playing the game, and whatever happens. Obviously, I think it's in an alpha, but the person playing it died, the party died. I quite like that they didn't kind of set up something so you only saw, a victory or a good thing that they wanted you to see. So I thought that was quite interesting. Before we talk about the game, I think it's the most interesting. The weirdest thing about these kind of reveals all the time, whether it's games, films, whatever it may be, more so than the game, it's actually the response that you get on the internet. I was looking at some of the comments on YouTube from the video, and it's weird. You almost get two polar opposites with very little in the middle. You get people who, whether it's because they like the Divinity games or they like Larian generally, other games that they've done, Larian can do no wrong. They could be showing Baldur's Gate 3, it could be a first-person shooter, and Larian could do no wrong. Oh yeah, great, this is exactly what I wanted from Baldur's Gate 3. And on the other hand, you get people who are just completely, just totally negative. It's they don't even kind of really talk about what the issues are. It's just complete negativity. I'm not going to like this. Before I saw it, I'm not going to like it. And you get very, very little in the middle. So I'll kind of try and stay in the middle if I can. Although my response to the trailer is slightly, But I'm old enough to have played the original Baldur's Gate when it first came out. I'm old enough to have played the early Ultima games and Gold Box, Forgotten Realms games. I'm old, so I've been around the block, and I can remember these games first time around. Baldur's Gate 2 is probably, along with Dragon Age, Planescape, maybe one or two others, would certainly be in my top 5 role-playing games of all time. So that's where I'm coming from. But I also have played the Divinity games, and I've also played the Pillars of Eternity games. Well, the first one, I haven't played the second one yet. And I liked all of them. I thought they was great. But I think the crux of it for me, I think, is if I was watching this video and there was no title, I didn't know what it was, I would have said, "Oh, Divinity Original Sin 3." That's what I would have, because I think the graphical style is very similar, the combat style is very similar. Obviously, there isn't too much here that you can see. Let's just see if we can whiz this forward a bit to some different. Are there any other different encounters? Oh, so they're still fighting the. I'm just looking to see if we can find another encounter. Was that an encounter we just missed? Featherfall. That's interesting. Looks like this might be some combat. We'll leave it here. Yeah. So if I was playing the game, if I was watching this footage and I didn't know what the game was, that's what that Divinity 3 would have been my guess. And it's interesting because you just kind of saw the D20 dice come up there, so that kind of gives it a bit more flavour. Because I was watching it, I was thinking to myself, well, why is this Baldur's Gate? Why is this D&D? It doesn't seem to be like it at all. But obviously, it's early footage, so you got characters. These characters seem to be a bit more fleshed out. I'm not sure if they're all abilities down there that can be used. But I think a lot can be said. I think a lot of what makes a game is the atmosphere that surrounds it, and also obviously the way it plays. And this looks and feels and plays very differently to the original Baldur's Gate game. So I guess what it comes down to is that, does that matter? And I suppose it's all down to personal preference, really. As someone who, as I said, Baldur's Gate 2 is one of my favourite role-playing games, CRPGs of all time. And as someone who enjoyed the Divinity games, but they wouldn't come into that, they wouldn't come into that list probably. I'm disappointed. It's I can't. I do feel that, obviously, from the developer's point of view, they've got an engine, they've probably got lots of assets and stuff that they can use. So it kind of makes sense. But I think Baldur's Gate 3 is such a big thing. It's probably a game that many of us, like CRPG fans, have been waiting for a long time. And I would have liked to have seen more effort put into making it, so that it differentiated itself between the Divinity games. Now, this obviously, I think this is alpha, so we don't really know what the game's going to look like at the end. But I think from a looks point of view, it feels a bit generic Larian, and that is disappointing for me, just for me personally. So I can understand it. It makes sense, I guess, but looking at this, I'd almost wish that they'd just hired some industry role-playing veterans who kind of didn't have a feel or a look, because I do find the look a bit disappointing. I can't hide it. As I said, even though I understand it, I can't really. It doesn't feel as though the look is not for me, and I'm kind of hoping that there is some change, just some uniqueness, because I think Baldur's Gate 3 deserves that. With regards to the gameplay, I mean that's kind of more problematic for me, because not only have you got the feel and the atmosphere and the graphical style, but then you've kind of got the gameplay of Divinity as well. So it feels a bit like it kind of feels a bit like what you've got is you've got this could almost be a Divinity 3, but they're kind of putting but they're incorporating a D&D system, and obviously the Baldur's Gate, is it Forgotten Realms? I can't remember, but the Baldur's Gate or Forgotten Realms world, and I don't think that's enough personally. I don't think creating it feels like, as I said, they've created Divinity 3 and they've slapped a Baldur's Gate liquor paint on it, and that's not enough personally. Will I still play the game and enjoy it? Yes, I will, but as things look at the moment, I'm disappointed. I can't, and it's not oh God, give me what I want kind of disappointment. It's just that I personally feel that Baldur's Gate deserves a bit more than what I've seen. It's not to say that the world, when I say deserves more, it's not to say that the world's not beautifully designed and they haven't put time into it, and the combat system, is bad. I'm not saying any of the game is bad. I just feel that Baldur's Gate deserved a more unique approach to design, to the design, and I guess when you choose a role playing, when you choose a developer that's already got their own very much their own style to produce a game that is, they're both role-playing games and isometric role-playing games, but this looks and feels nothing like Baldur's Gate 2, even taking into account the fact that Baldur's Gate 2 was, visually, obviously, technically, it's all very different. This is all now polygons 3D, I'm assuming, higher textures and all that kind of thing. So there's always going to be things that look different. It was always going to look different, obviously. But when I'm sitting here watching the gameplay, it doesn't feel like Baldur's Gate. It doesn't feel what I was expecting from it anyway. But there you go. I know that there are people out there who will disagree and probably be able to make some good arguments as to why it does. There'll be people out there who will probably never like it, no matter what it was going to look like. And then you'll get people who, will just crazily defend it, irrespective of what it was going to be. I think that's just life. But hopefully I've kind of been hopefully I've tried to be as balanced as I could as I could be. It's difficult when you're disappointed with something, because then people automatically think that you're just a troll being negative. Whereas I'm watching this and I'm genuinely struggling to find, other than the lick of paint with regards to like the classes and the names of the locations and the spells, like everything else, I'm really struggling to see a Baldur's Gate here. But as I said, I mean, I'll definitely buy it and play it when it comes out. I'll probably play through the first two games before I do. It's quite like to do that when a new game comes out in a series. I like to go back and play the old ones first. Always find that quite a fun thing to do. But anyway, that's it. That's just some brief thoughts on Baldur's Gate 3. Really don't know how it's going to end up. We don't know. So maybe my own misgivings will be proved incorrect. I kind of feel that maybe is he going to go in? What I would quite like to see is just an indoor like a dungeon location. Oh, here we go. Let's have a look. Yeah, I was kind of thinking maybe a dungeon location would feel. It's weird, isn't it? I mean, because I mean, I've been exposed to Dungeons and Dragons now for how long? Well, since like the mid '80s, I guess. So looking at like 35 years, yeah, which is a long time. And I guess it's a bit like when someone develops something that's Tolkien-esque. I've been into Tolkien longer than D&D, probably since like very early 80s. And so when someone creates a game or the films or whatever, I'm almost because you've got your own vision of what it should look like and how the characters should act and etc. When you're that into something, it's always difficult to. I mean, what is going on there? Like he's. Yeah, that's rubbish. I understand it's turn-based, but like he's paused the game, but has then been able to sneak up behind the character, and the character can't move while you're doing that. That's stupid. I really don't like that. I've just seen something that I really don't like. In Baldur's Gate, then the NPC would have carried on moving, and you would have had to have sneaked up behind them. That's weird. Like, you can pause the game, but you can still take an action. But I understand it's turn-based. Obviously, not what that means, but it's still weird. That's still weird. The fact that you could pause the game and the person could sneak up behind you, and you could sneak up behind them, and they just got to stand there. That's horrible. Yeah, that's horrible. That's the first thing I've seen that I would say I really don't like. Yeah, but sorry, going back to my point, you obviously, you just have when you've been exposed to something for so long, you just have a I guess a set opinion on how something should look and feel. Maybe I've got that. I'm not sure, but to me, this doesn't feel like a D&D game, and it's weird because, like, looking here, it's obviously like a dungeon setting, and you've got pillars and bricks, and I don't know, maybe it's because I just associate Baldur's Gate with the look of Baldur's Gate. I don't know. And because I mean, I guess that there hasn't been too many D&D based role playing games in recent years, so maybe because of that, I'm kind of looking. I guess also, I think it's just clicked. And I know that people will disagree with this, but Pillars of Eternity feels a lot more like a Baldur's Gate game should feel and look, as opposed to this. And I think it's just clicked, because I think to myself, has there been any D&D role playing games, like official ones? And there hasn't been too many, but I remember Pillars of Eternity, and I know that's not an official game. I don't think it's an official D&D game, but the way it looks and feels and the way it plays, I think, is a lot more what I was expecting from this game. Maybe that's it. Maybe it's just clicked. Maybe because I've recently played Pillars of Eternity, even though it's not, I might be wrong, but even though it's not an officially endorsed D&D product, it just feels a lot more like that. But in saying that, I've just seen this perception skill system being used. I really liked that. That was really good. Anyway, when the game comes out, I will be buying it and playing it, and I'll, maybe do an updated video at that point. But anyway, yeah, just some thoughts. Speak to you again soon.